Voting. In the United States, women were granted the right to vote in 1920. Voting gives everyone a chance to voice his or her opinion. Casting a vote. Have you ever chosen a leader for your classroom, sports team, scout pack, or youth group? If the answer is yes, you probably voted. Voting is a way for groups of people to make decisions. It gives each person in the group a voice in choosing leaders and deciding on rules for the group to follow. Voting, a hard-won right and an important responsibility. The U.S. Constitution is a document that contains the laws for setting up the U.S. government and running the country. Fully adopted in 1791, the U.S. Constitution states that citizens who are at least 18 years old have the right to vote in local, state, and nationwide elections. The Founding Fathers of the United States designed the Constitution to give U.S. citizens a voice in the government. However, not all countries gave their citizens the right to vote. As a result, there have been many conflicts over voting rights. Even in the United States, certain groups struggled for many years for the right to vote. These groups wanted to have a voice in how their country was governed. That was why voting is such an important responsibility and why the United States encourages its citizens to get out and vote. Until the 15th Amendment was passed in 1870, state and local laws often prevented African Americans from voting. Elections. An election is a process of choosing someone or deciding something by voting. Whenever an election is held, it's important that it be free and honest. A free election means that voters have a choice of candidates to vote for. An honest election means that people are able to vote by secret ballot. This allows people to vote without fear of being punished because of how they voted. In some countries, voting is a legal requirement. Polls provide voters with private booths so that others cannot see who they are voting for. When people think of voting, they often think of voting for leaders. In the United States, leaders are needed for towns, states, and the nation. Local leaders include city council members and mayors. Governors and lieutenant governors are state leaders. National leaders include the president, vice president, and members of Congress. Sometimes people also vote on issues. For example, they vote on whether their taxes should be raised. Citizens might also vote on whether a highway should be built through their town. New bills regarding health care, education, and other state and local laws can be voted on as well. Groups sometimes organize a petition or formal request to have a certain issue be voted on by the general public. New residents of the United States must become citizens before they are allowed to vote. Meeting the requirements. Each country has its own laws about voting. Here is the way voting works in the United States. A person must be 18 to vote. Voters must also be American-born or naturalized citizens of the United States. Naturalized citizens are people who move to the United States from other countries and then become U.S. citizens. Naturalized citizens cannot run for president. Before voting. Each state sets its own rules for participating in elections. It is important that voters check their state's voting laws. In most states, citizens have to register before voting. They must fill out registration forms to provide information such as their name, address, and age. They must also show proof of address. A bill, bank statement, or pay stub with their address proves that that address is real. In the months leading up to major elections, volunteers often set up voter registration booths to encourage people to register. In some places, people must align themselves with a political party. The United States has two major political parties: the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. A voter who doesn't want to support either of these parties can register as an independent. An independent might follow a third party, such as the Libertarian Party or the Green Party. During presidential elections, the Republican and Democratic parties each choose one nominee. For example, John McCain was the Republican presidential candidate, and Barack Obama was the Democratic presidential candidate who ended up winning. Voter registration information is kept in an office called the registrar. The office is generally located in the voter's city hall or town hall. The registrar keeps a list of all eligible voters living in the area. Usually, a voter's name must show up on the registrar's list before that person can vote. Citizens can register to vote directly at the registrar's office.